Hello there. Welcome to my kitchen. And today we're going to be making chicken and dumplings the real southern way. And I had to ask my mom for a little help because I've never actually made dumplings before. I love them though. My mom makes them on occasion. So I sent her an email and I asked her to give me some instructions and some ideas of how to make dumplings, chicken and dumplings. And she sent me an email back. I'm going to read it to you. It says, dumplings are simple things, but not as simple as they seem. If the broth is not hot enough, the dumplings melt, and you have a fairly good soup. If it's too hot, they don't do well either, puffy and dry. Making good biscuits and dumplings is more about feel, instinct, and just plain luck than most cooking. There's no guarantee how they will turn out. It's something that's difficult unless you do it often, which I've never done it before, so we'll see how this goes. A whole chicken cut up or chicken pieces, either one is fine, but you want some dark meat or the taste will be very bland. I'd suggest legs, thighs, and some breast meat. Cook it in water enough to barely cover the chicken. After it's done, take the chicken out of the broth, take off the bones, cut up the larger pieces of chicken, and add it back to the broth. Some people take off the chicken fat, but that's where the flavor is, so don't remove it or not all of it. Whatever bread product you're using, those frozen biscuits from the store or homemade, roll them out on a floured thingy. She called it a thingy. I use the countertop after it's well cleaned, but a cutting board would be okay too. I don't have a good cutting board. Coat everything in flour, including your hands. Roll out the dough until it's maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. Use a knife, floured of course, to cut strips of dough, continually dipping the knife in flour and adding flour anywhere the dough sticks together or to other things. I just hold the strip of cut dough in my floured hands and pinch off 2-inch pieces and drop it into the broth. The broth has to be boiling gently when you do this. Don't drop the pieces on top of each other. I keep a knife or something beside the pot to sort of move the pieces around. When you can't put more in because of lack of room, stop for a bit, giving the mixture time for the temperature to come back up. And boil gently. You may want to cover the pot to let the dumplings in the pot cook. If you do, it may boil over if you aren't careful. Just a couple minutes or so, then you can open it up, use the knife to move the cooked dumplings over to make room to add more pieces of dough. Too many dumplings, they will be dry, the liquid will be all gone, and you'll have a gooey mess. It will taste pretty good but look gross. Some of the dumplings will simply melt, adding a little thickening to the broth. It's all about practice, seeing, feeling, and a sixth sense, I guess. Anyway, it can be a learning experience and give you a good laugh at yourself if it doesn't work out, or a pat on the back if it works well. So this is my first time doing this. I went to the store and I tried to find just some cut up chicken pieces, but they didn't have any. They had packs of just legs or thighs, things like that, but no packages that had assorted mixed pieces. So I bought this, which is just a whole chicken. It's raw and it's wrapped in plastic and it has not been cooked yet. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to cut it up and I'm going to add water. This is my pot. I'm going to add water to the pot enough to cover it up after I cut up the pieces of chicken. And then, once I'm ready to make the biscuit dough, I'm not going to use canned biscuits because I don't really like canned biscuits. I'm going to use this. This is Bisquick Heart Smart Pancake and Baking Mix. This makes pretty good biscuits. And they have instructions on the back to make different things. And they have instructions to use this mix for pancakes or waffles or biscuits, things like that. So I'm going to be using this to make the dumplings with. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut up the chicken and I'm going to boil it, and then we will come back and we will start on the dumplings. So here we are again, and what I've done since you last saw me was that I cooked the chicken. I cut it up a little bit and then I put it in the water to boil, And then after it boiled and cooked, I took the chicken out and I removed the meat and cut it up and I left the water in the pot. And then I added the pieces of chicken back in, the white meat and the dark meat. And it is now gently boiling like my mom's directions said. And I took my biscuit and I made this big piece of dough and I flattened it out. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. And I have some flour here in this little container. And I have a little butter knife and I'm going to use it to cut this into strips. And hopefully when I add it to the chicken and the broth, they will fluff up and cook and turn out okay. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to use this to move them around in the pot. I forgot that. I'm going to put it over here for right now. So I'm going to take my knife here and I'm going to keep my flour handy so I can keep the flour on the knife so that the dough does not stick to the knife. I'm just going to cut some strips in the dough like this. And I didn't have a really big plate, so I just took this serving tray. It's a big white oval serving tray. And I just flattened it out on that. So right now I'm just cutting these strips. I think she said to make them about 2 inches. I'm not really being super accurate. It doesn't have to be perfect. So after each cut, I sort of move the knife around in the little container of flour. And I'm just trying to cut them. It's kind of hard because the pot's in the way. And I'm going to put them in there a little bit at a time, and I'll use my little plastic spoon to move them around as I put them in. I have a lot of dough here. I may actually have a little bit too much. I don't know how much is going to fit in here. So cut them up like that. Now, I've cut them with my knife. I'm going to set the knife aside for a minute. The broth is gently boiling, and I also have a lid for this pot. So I'm going to put some flour on my fingers before I pick this up. I'm just going to make sure it's not sticking to anything. And I'm just going to sort of drop them in there. They don't have to be a perfect shape. It doesn't really matter. My mom's dumplings are, all different shapes. And after they cook, the shape will change anyway. So just want to make sure that there are no sticky parts when you drop it in. I think when they're sticky, they kind of stick together. And if your dumplings are a little too big, they're very easy to cut with a fork or a spoon or whatever you're using. Now they're gonna move them around a little bit. They're already fluffing up in there. It smells really good. I haven't added anything to it. I haven't added any salt or pepper or anything else at this point. It's just the water, the stock, the broth that I cook the chicken in. And the pieces of chicken. They're really big. They really fluff up something awful. I turn the heat down just a little. Can't wait to try these and see how they taste. Of course, I don't think they'll ever be as good as my mom's, but I think I'll always believe hers are the best. And you can even, looks like you can even use the thing that you move them around with to kind of break them up if you want. They're very soft and they just come apart right there in the pot. And then I have some flour on my platter. I'm just gonna use that flour also. I have quite a bit here, so I think I can just poke them down in there. That one's a little sticky. Let's just stir in them a little. I'm going to break these up and make them a little smaller. And they're just bubbling away. I have plenty of dough. I wasn't really sure how much I needed, so I wanted to make sure I had enough. I guess if I have any left over, I can turn them into biscuits or something. I know around here, I don't know where you live, but here, if you go to the grocery store and you look in the section where they have soup, sometimes you can find canned chicken and dumplings. These dumplings are a little different. These are fluffier. The ones that you get in the canned chicken and dumplings are more like, almost like a pasta. I mean, they're bread, but they're just, I'm not sure how they make them, but I'm sure they have to make them in a way where they don't become mushy and fall apart through the canning process, and then when you heat them up. So I imagine they're made differently than these. And they're still, the broth is just gently boiling, and all of the pieces of chicken are down in the bottom of the pot. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can fit all this in here. I don't really have enough left over to do anything with, and I hate to just throw it away. You need a pretty good sized pot for this. I actually probably could have used one a little bit bigger than this. I have a stock pot, but I didn't think I would need one that big. This one is fairly good sized pot, but it's getting close to the top. It's my last piece right there. And I'm just kind of stirring them around gently with the spoon. Trying to get them to move around a bit. Thought maybe they might sink a little more, but they're not. Now, that really, really good. Oh, I can't wait to try it. I would say, after my experience with having to cut up that big old whole chicken, if at all possible, you might want to get the chicken that's pre-cut. It's just pieces. I think it would be a lot easier than having to cut the whole thing up. It was difficult to cut up a raw chicken and get it in this pot, but I'm not used to doing that kind of thing, so I imagine maybe if you do that kind of cooking, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I had a little trouble getting it cut up and getting it in here. And it cooked really fast. It didn't take much time at all. It didn't take anywhere near as long to cook as I thought it would. So once you get it in the pot, once you get the chicken in the pot to cook, don't go anywhere because it cooks really fast. So I'm kind of massaging the dumplings with my spoon. I'm not stabbing at them really hard or anything like that. I'm just kind of moving them around like that. It smells really, really good. I wish you could smell this. And I'll show you one. They're very hot. And here's what they look like. Oh, it smells so yummy. Now, normally when my mom makes these, she won't add any salt or anything else to it. And then when you get your dumplings and chicken, you get your chicken and dumplings out and get ready to eat them, you can do whatever you like if you want to add salt or pepper or anything like that. Personally, I like just a little bit of salt, but normally not any pepper, but my mom likes to put pepper on them. But yeah, definitely if you're going to make them, I would get a chicken that's already cut up. It costs more, but I think it's worth it rather than trying to cut up a big whole raw chicken. That was kind of a pain. And I kept the bones and everything in the fat, the skin and stuff, after it was cooked, because my mom wanted them to give to her cats. So I stuck all that in a bag and put it in the freezer, and next time I see her, hopefully I'll remember to take that. So I'm not entirely sure how long I'm supposed to let them cook. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. I think I'll put the lid on it just for a minute. And I'll move this platter out of the way. And this is the part where she mentioned in her email that you don't want to leave it because it can boil over. I did turn the heat down a little bit, and I can see that it is boiling kind of in between the dumplings there. And it looks really good. I think I'll get a bowl. I'm going to put some of this chicken and dumplings in the bowl. And I'll get us some salt, and we'll try it, and we'll see how it tastes. So here's a bowl. And the salt. Oh, it looks so yummy. It's not boiling over or anything, it's just bubbling along very happy. Alright. If you're not careful, the dumplings will stick together. So I'm just stirring them up a little bit. You have to kind of dig down to the bottom to get the chicken. It's down at the very bottom. Let's see if I can get some. Get some dumplings too. And I'll probably need a spoon. So here's my bowl of chicken and dumplings. I add a little salt. I just don't think they're any good without salt. They need salt. Okay, so see the pieces of chicken here. You got a little bit of the broth in here. I'm gonna try that first. Oh, it's good. It's very hot. Chicken is definitely good. And the dumplings, of course, you see are all different shapes. You know what? I'll show you the inside. When you cut a dumpling open, it just looks like bread. It just looks like, well, I mean, it is bread, but you know, it looks like a little biscuit. So you can see the you can kind of see the texture in here of the bit of the dumpling. I'm gonna try that now. I'll tell you, they turned out perfectly. These are absolutely wonderful. This is great. Perfect for a cold winter day. This is very, very yummy. I would definitely recommend trying it. The hardest part for me, I think, was just getting all the chicken off the bones. But I just propped up my phone where I could see and watched part of Crocodile Dundee and sat there and picked chicken off the bones. It was fun. It's messy, it's greasy, but definitely worth it because now I have this gigantic pot of chicken and dumplings and I'm definitely going to enjoy this. So, even if you can't cook, it doesn't matter. You should give it a shot. And if you've never had dumplings before, I think you should try it. I think anybody would like this. You can make them yourself. So, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you can try this. I wish you could be here to eat these because these are fantastic. Thanks for watching.